Who do you like to have a freak performance in the captain spot?
I like DeAndre Swift to have a freak performance, or at least under rostered freak performance, I should say. But he's been a disappointment this year, obviously, considering he was a late first round pick, second round. I kind of forget, but I know he was way up there. But he's came on of late, and he had a massive game last week against the Bears, rushed for 78 yards and a touchdown, caught 4 passes for 39 yards and a touchdown through the air as well. So this is a great matchup against the Packers. They rank 31st in DVOA against the run, which is also why I like Jamal Williams here. Plus, it's a revenge game for him. But this is also likely to be a trailing game streak. As you mentioned, the Lions are plus 4.5 on the road. So that benefits Swift, who's obviously going to lead in receiving usage. So, Jamal Williams gets all the goal line work, but Swift is able to score long touchdowns on his own. So he has that just massive ceiling I look for in the captain slot. And I think he's pretty much game script proof. It can go either way here. And I think Swift should have a big game, even though his usage has been fairly low. But like I said, I don't think he's going to be rostered too much in the captain slot. And just considering how high of a ceiling he does have, I think this is the perfect spot to use him.
Yeah, he's a high ceiling, high floor guy because
Yep.
he's still kind of splitting that backfield with Jamal, even with Jackson was out last game, but Reynolds came back.
Yep.
So they're still kind of using three. But yeah, I like Swift. He's been playing well. I'm gonna go with Christian Watson here. Just love the matchup. Man coverage team like Detroit plays the third most man in the league, and Watson's third in the entire league in yards per route against man coverage at 3.64. Even with him projected for about 75% of the routes this week, he's still my wide receiver 19. So that just kind of shows you the upside that he has. So if he goes back to being, a 90% plus snap guy, great. But I think even if he's, going more 75-25 with Romeo Dobbs or whoever he's splitting snaps with,
Mm-hmm.
I think he still has massive upside. This is the kind of defense that you always want to target Watson against. Detroit loves to blitz. They don't really stop doing it no matter who they're playing. So really like Watson in this spot.
Yeah, I was gonna go with him. He is certainly the most logical play here. And last week I was surprised. He ran around on 59%
Mm-hmm.
of Rodgers' dropbacks. I thought he was going to be a little bit more limited. And while he only finished with one catch for 11 yards, I mean, he was targeted downfield. I think he nearly caught a touchdown, but he just missed a massive game in limited playing time. So I think that his hip will only be better this week, I would imagine. So I do think he will be running around 90% of the time. It's a must-win game. So just he has a massive ceiling, and maybe he's overlooked because of the bad game last week. So yeah, I think for the captain slot, he's certainly the optimal play.
All right, who do you like for dart throws?
So on the Lions side, got to go with Jamison Williams. He's seen his routes run rate increase in all 5 games. It hasn't been much, but last week it was at least up to 30%. So have to figure that trend is going to continue. Maybe get up to 35%, 40% possibly this week. And he's still just mainly a downfield threat. Unfortunately, he only has the 141-yard touchdown catch on the season, which was honestly just blown coverage. He didn't have to do much on that. But, the playing time increase does increase the chances of him hauling in a deep pass. So he has that going for him. Plus, they gave him a design rush attempt last week, and he took it for 40 yards. So anytime he's touched the ball, it's been an explosive play. And I think with both scenarios here, it would make sense to kind of get Jamison more playing time. If the Seahawks win, the Lions will probably be looking ahead to next season. So why not unleash Jamison for the final game? What do you have to lose? If the Seahawks lose, the Lions will be playing for a playoff berth. So why hold back Jamison in that situation as well? I know the other receivers have been playing well, but he's, a first round talent. So I think either way, we could see his role increase here. And honestly, just with these dart throws, we're just going for ceiling. And he certainly has that. On the Packers side, it's a little bit tougher. I went with Romeo Dobbs because, he's clearly the number 4 wide receiver right now. Everybody knows that. So I think his rostership will be, fairly low here. But in his, 3 games since returning, he's averaged a 44% routes run rate. I think that's sort of inflated because Watson has missed quite a bit of time. So I wouldn't be shocked if Dobbs' playing time went down here. But he has been targeted heavily when he is on the field. He's been targeted 30% of his routes run the past 3 games. So that's a very high rate. So it just shows that when he's on the field, Rodgers does want to go his way. They obviously have a ton of chemistry from earlier in the season. So I could see him catching a few balls, especially in the red zone. I think he is a threat for a potential touchdown here. So I think on a slate like this, Dobbs makes a ton of sense as a dart throw.
Yeah, Dobbs is definitely, I think he has a wide range of outcomes in terms of his routes run. Like it could be anywhere from like 20 to 50%. So I like that a lot. I'm curious, like, what are you seeing with Jameson Williams? Because he would honestly do better than this. I know he has like 2 big plays, but he doesn't seem to be getting targeted a ton. And outside of one blown coverage, he really hasn't been that productive, which is interesting because that whole offense is productive otherwise. So have you been seeing anything? Do you think it's just kind of like a slow to acclimate, or what have you been seeing with him?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he missed, training camp preseason. So he's sort of breaking in later in the season. So I never really expected him to catching 5-6 balls a game. But I think part of it just has to do with DJ Chark is playing extremely well. I mean, Chark, aside from that one game where he caught one pass for 18 yards, he's been clearing 90 yards consistently. So I think that's probably one of the reasons they haven't really forced the issue. Although it is surprising, Josh Reynolds and Cleve Raymond haven't really been conceding that many snaps to him. Obviously, those are the 2 guys that he's eating in the playing time, but it's just not a good sign that he hasn't been able to leapfrog those 2 guys. But I haven't noticed anything. I mean, that's who he is. Right now he's a downfield threat, competing with DJ Chark, who is playing out his mind right now. So it's just an unfortunate situation. But next year, I do think he will be more of a wide receiver 3 option with insane upside on a weekly basis. But that comes with the territory. If you're a downfield threat, you're going to have a lot of games where you goose egg. So that's just kind of par for the course. But it has been concerning and disappointing that he hasn't been able to clear, say, like a 40% routes run rate.
Yeah, that's kind of the odd thing, is that not only is he really not being very productive when he's on the field, but he's not getting those snaps to kind of show what he can do. So I wonder if that injury maybe is kind of hampering him a bit more than he's letting on, or the team's letting on, or something like that. Because for all they traded for him, and just for his for what he did in college and how good he was, it's just kind of surprising.
Well, just like the timing of the ACL injury was awful too, because that was the championship game. So it's been less than a year. So the fact that he was able to return in week 12 was a pretty remarkable recovery. So I just never expected him to really hit full strength this season. But he is healthy right now, so it is slightly concerning, to say the least, that he hasn't been able to leapfrog some of these fringe guys.
Yeah, and I'm actually going with Khalif Raymond for my dart throw. He just seems to stick around week after week, but I like him for a few reasons. Number one, I do think Jameson Williams is probably the higher ceiling, sexier option, but that's going to lower a guy like Raymond's rostership rate. And when you look at his usage, 34% of the routes the last 3 games, he has some incentives going. Outside shot, 100 yards, he'd get a bonus. 2 catches, though, he'd get a bonus. So that's interesting in the prop market. But 1.9 yards per route against zone coverage. The Packers tend to play a lot of zones. That's second among Lion wide receivers after Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think Raymond's going to continue to have a role here. And he also returns punts. So you could stack him with the defense and get that double dip. Rodgers been a little more turnover prone this year than in years past, especially against the Lions. I mean, I think he had 3 picks in that last game. So, don't mind Raymond at all on the Lions side. I think he's real interesting because he's probably the 5th guy people are going to look at after Amon-Ra, Chark, Jameson Williams, and Josh Reynolds. So love me some Raymond. And on the Packers side, I mean, you could just go any of these tight ends. Detroit's given up a league high 11 touchdown receptions to the tight end position, but I'll go with Tonyan since he's obviously he's kind of turned into a dart throw this year. I know he had a big game last week, but it's been really inconsistent. But I think he can actually double up on the productive games here because again, Detroit, one of the worst teams in the league against tight ends and giving up a touchdown almost about point every two. Let me say it again. 3-2. Detroit giving up a touchdown, 2 out of every 3 games to the tight end position. So I think we might see Tunyon find the end zone again, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a guy like Mercedes Lewis either. But I'll go with Tunyon.
Yeah, no, Khalif Raymond, I like the call because he returns punts as well. He needs 52 punt return yards to get a $150,000 bonus. So if the Lions are eliminated, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make many fair catches.
Even if they're not, he'd probably be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, he's probably going for that money. He gets $15K for every punt return touchdown, but that yardage, he's close enough where I think he's gonna get a little extra go this week. And Justin Jackson was out last week. I wonder if he was returning kicks as well. But either way, on these showdown sites, I think it is important to kind of take a guy that's also returning kicks.
We do have a fullback on the
slate. Oh, we do.
Kabinda for the Lions. He does have 4 targets and a carry in 7 games, and he's averaging about 3 routes a game. So still, I would say on the low end of fullbacks, but he is seeing like a look most games. So, I mean, crazier things have happened. Maybe only like if you're doing a Millie Maker or something like that.
Yeah, he's a low end option. Whatever happened to Aaron Ripkowski? Remember the Packers used to use their fullback pretty heavily. Is that basically DeGuara, Mercedes Lewis? Are they kind of?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, it's the LaFleur. LaFleur is
that's true.
The 3 wide.
Yeah.
They're not really using a ton of. They barely use a lot of 2 tight end these days. I mean, it's the last couple of games. I think they've increased it, but especially because they have those 2 running backs. If anything, sometimes they'll just use those 2 running backs on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, not as big with the lead blockers. But I guess, I mean, you don't really need a lead blocker for AJ Dillon.
That's true. Yeah.
He's his own lead blocker. What do we got for the luck rankings in this one?
So this one's pretty close, right? It's the Packers are 22nd and Lions are 21st. So that's as small of a differential as it gets. What do you think about my idea of the Rams are a luck rank team this week?
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of taking them on the money line.
Mm-hmm.
And parlaying that with the Lions plus 4.5. What do you think about that?
So essentially,
if the Rams win, so I think the Lions are parked on plus 4.5 because there's a chance this game is meaningless for them. Now, understandably, under Dan Campbell, I think they're going to give 100% max effort either way. But if the Rams do upset the Seahawks, I would not be shocked if this line drops to about 3 because that's where I have this. I have the Packers about -3 in my power rating. So if the Seahawks win, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions get bet up to 5.5. So just this is a week where it's a unique scenario where other games are going to impact other games. So I was just thinking of sneaky correlation bets like also Nick brought up taking the Eagles -14.5 and the under on Dak's passing prop, things like that.
Yep.
But for this game specifically, I think that if the Rams were to win, do you think that the Lions will drop down to like 3?
Yeah, I was thinking. I don't think it'll get to 3. I think it'll close at like 3.5, just because the Packers are such a public team playing on prime time, and it still would be a must-win game for Aaron Rodgers to get to the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I my prediction would be 3.5, but I think the actual line should be around 3. So I like exactly. It. I think that's and I think that kind of has because people are gonna look at the line based on what happens in that game, and if the Rams lose, then I think the line's gonna go the other way, right? Like I think the Packers might close at what 5-6 maybe.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I do like the Rams this week. They're getting 6.5. That's a luck ranking differential of 14 as well. And teams that have been eliminated have historically done better against teams fighting for a playoff berth, because I think the public is aware that, one team's trying and the other team isn't. But I think every single NFL team is usually giving around 100% week in, week out. A sport like NBA where there's so many games and it's so physically demanding, you get teams kind of taking a day off. That I don't see that in the NFL. I think the Rams will be giving 100%. So I like them regardless. So I just think that taking the money line makes the most sense, and just parlaying that with the lines.